Throughout history, certain events have shaped our world in ways that go far beyond their immediate impact. November 22nd, 1963. September 11th, 2001. March 2020. Each moment marked not just by tragedy, but by the questions that followed. The Warren Commission, the 9/11 Commission, emergency powers that became permanent. From Dallas to New York to global lockdowns, patterns emerge for those willing to look. The same institutions, the same responses, the same consolidation of power. Recent events continue this trajectory. Butler, Pennsylvania, Manhattan's streets, each incident followed by familiar narratives, familiar solutions. Meanwhile, in boardrooms from Davos to Bilderberg, the world's most powerful gather behind closed doors. Central banks coordinate policy. Intelligence agencies share resources. Global forums set agendas that nations follow. The World Economic Forum speaks of stakeholder capitalism. The Bilderberg Group meets in secrecy. Ancient orders maintain their influence. Some call it conspiracy, others call it coordination. But the connections are there, documented and undeniable. The question isn't whether these networks exist, it's whether we're brave enough to acknowledge their influence on the world we inhabit. The dots are there. We just have to be willing to connect them.
Pop up on stage. There we go. Guys, I had to switch cameras at the last minute. Give me a 1 in the chat if you guys can all hear me. Just want to make sure that my setup's working. Everybody, are we good? All right, cool. What's up, everybody? I had issues at the last minute with my webcam. I had to switch to my MacBook camera there, so I don't know what the glitch is, but all right, welcome in, everybody. Tonight, all right, cool. Everybody can hear me. That's great. Tonight, I'm going to touch on the recent Christopher Whitcomb interviews. You had the Custody Queens Off the Clock with Ron and Outkast, and then Lana had Christopher Whitcomb on as well. So I'm going to talk about my general thoughts. I did a short video about it, and I'm going to get into a little bit about why I believe what I believe about the case. I'm not going to suss out the way other people do interviews because, as I mentioned in my video yesterday, you can't force a guest to talk about things that they don't want to talk about. And you don't know when you have a guest on if they have an agenda that they're pushing. So we'll get into that tonight. And then, as always, we'll open it up for open discussion, see what you guys want to talk about. All right, so I'm heading back to Colorado tomorrow. And I'll be back in my element, and I'm still planning to do 2 lives this coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and, hopefully get back into a more normal schedule next week and be back on Birdie on Wednesdays and whatnot. So, what's up? I see E. Potty, Beelzy, Karen Bell, Sean Marie, Chanel, my handler's here. It's good to see you guys. All right. So hopefully we'll get some more people filing in. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm still trying to grow, still trying to expand, build a community more. And in the meantime, one thing I'll discuss. I think that a lot of people I've found based on comments that I have gotten and questions that I've gotten from people sometimes don't understand specifically what I mean when I refer to an operation. And I understand it may not be something that everybody is familiar with. So when I speak of an operation in the case of, let's say, the Idaho 4 case, to me, what that means is a larger coordinated effort that is typically related to a larger agenda. Now, framing somebody, people could say that that might constitute an operation. They may view that as some sort of coordinated operation. When I refer to it, I'm speaking more of something that goes up a few levels, something that's a little more, it's beyond just the local level. So typically, like for example, in this case, the universities are local, they're in the area that they're located, but they're connected to other things. All universities, by and large, are connected to the banking industry, investment banks. Student loans are not, they're backed by the government, some of them, a lot of them, not all of them. But those loans themselves are investment portfolios. And so by default, universities are connected to the banking industry. Scott Green, the president of the U of I, worked in global banking. He didn't work in academia. You'll find a lot of major universities, their presidents and their top level people worked in investment banking. And I believe that that is one of the reasons why tuition skyrocketed, because when you have people coming from the banking industry, their motivations are going to be different than somebody who comes from academia. And I think that has shifted over time. And now the investment banks are basically involved in everything. So anyways, that's just an example. If you have interests of the university, I'm just using this as an example. Those interests surely are going to supersede local law enforcement, because all of the economy in that area and the income of the people in that area is connected to the school. If you're a small business owner in Moscow or Pullman, a lot of your income comes from the people that go there for school. That's going to be a major part. So the school is going to have a lot of sway on what happens in that area. That's real life. That's the way it works. Money dictates, budgets dictate. Satire 777, what's up? I mean, that's very possible regarding the plea deal. I wouldn't disagree with that, but my take on what is going on in the case is a little bit different. That's why when I'm going to interview the custody queens, they're going to be on this channel on August 28th. and we're probably going to do a live, and it will be 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, and we'll schedule that in advance so people are aware of it. I'm going to interview them. I'm not going to get too much into my thoughts of like regarding my theory, larger theory about the case. All right, let me just say hi to a couple of people. Sammy IS57. I'm probably saying that wrong, but welcome in. So they're going to be guests on this show on the 28th, and I'm going to get their perspective from everything they've seen thus far. Well, Sammy, I think that there's definitely in my opinion, a connection with that because we know there was a drug task force in that area, the Quad Cities Task Force. Birdie Bombshells is doing a 4-part series. He's done 3 already, where he's tapping into what were some of the things happening in that area before, during, and potentially after that may have influenced things surrounding the case. So he's getting into that right now. I tend to believe. Hey, Foxy, how you doing? Good to see you. Hopefully this camera's okay. It's just my MacBook camera. It's not too bad. Not as good as the webcam I have, though. So I'm trying to look at things when I say an operation. I'll just get back to that before we talk about the interview. When I talk about operations, it's typically I'm referring to something that is connected to something above the local level. So I'm not just, for example, if you have corruption in a local agency or like a cover up that's going on more locally, that is a form of an operation if a cover up is happening. And that does happen. We know corruption exists. Anybody who pays attention to the world knows this. But when I'm speaking about it in the context of these high profile cases and the bigger picture stuff, I'm more speaking about coordinated operations that are connected to multiple levels, typically higher levels. And we can get into that tonight as well, why I believe that. The main and most obvious reason is the amount of coordination, the amount of information that we have been told that's inconsistent, yet the mainstream media was all in lockstep on the official narrative. And they continued to push the official narrative. Books came out before the trial pushing a certain narrative. Now, you have to understand what my channel is about and the things that I have talked about. I've talked about foundational. I'm not talking about the true crime stuff. I've talked about foundational ideas, intelligence agencies, what they actually do, their historical coordination with the mainstream media, operations that they have been involved in, things that have been declassified. That you have to understand that, and that long and storied history of their connection to entities and institutions like the mainstream media. In addition, they use universities. Look at the example of the Tyler Robinson scenario and the Charlie Kirk assassination. Utah State University, which was close to Utah Valley University, where Charlie Kirk was assassinated, has a program that's run by the CIA. It's called the Center for Anticipatory Intelligence. So a lot of people have to, in my opinion, zoom out sometimes when high profile cases are happening. And I say it all the time. Don't just look at the event itself. Look at what happens as a result of the event. And in the Idaho 4 case, we've already had legislation passed that prohibits citizens from obtaining crime scene photos. This was pushed by the Gonzalez family, who in the beginning, you guys remember Steve G was bitching that they were shutting him down. He wasn't able to speak freely and so on and so forth. And then he does a flip-flop. And now they're trying to basically, that's a form of censorship, to limit the flow of information to the public. So anyway, that's just some very general basic things about what I mean when I refer to operations. And we can get into what I mean when I refer to it in the context of the Idaho 4 case. So let's get into a little bit about the interviews with Christopher Whitcomb. Now, his book, Broken Plea, came out, and it was, by all accounts, viewed as sort of this bombshell information. And then after that, you had Dr. Brent Turvey, who was the defense forensic expert, crime scene expert, and he was brought in to specifically initially regarding the knife sheath. And then you had Christopher Holland, who I believe Christopher Whitcomb had referenced both Turvey and Holland in his book. Correct me if I'm wrong about that, guys. It's been so much information flowing with this case. And the custody queens off the clock, and Ron, and most recently with Outkast, they've interviewed all of those people. Now, the question that I ask is, the big question, were some of these people, these experts, or in the case of Christopher Whitcomb, quote unquote journalist, and I say quote unquote because I've seen a video of him saying that when he worked, this is how I interpreted it. He basically said, yeah, I was working overseas. That's when I had a journalism cover. Let me explain. And Christopher Whitcomb, as I stated in my last video yesterday, he openly said in his interview with the custody queens and Ron and Outkast, he said, let's just get it out in the open. I worked for the CIA. Now, a lot of people were referring to him. Oh, yeah, well, satire, I'll touch on that a little bit because I know some of the big events he was involved in. But keep in mind, guys, a lot of people, when his book came out, kept saying former FBI special agent. After that, he worked as an intelligence contractor or maybe directly for the CIA. He definitely worked for them overseas, which is, by all accounts, that would be considered operations. And when you are working in certain operations, there are agents that are called a NOC, an NOC, non-official cover, which means they give you your cover. You're an art dealer, you're a journalist, you're whatever. So you have cover in whatever operation you're working on. And he said it that he had a journalism cover. There's a lot more to that, which I'll get into later. I was talking with Philly about it earlier. So think about that. I would focus on the fact that he worked for the CIA more than the FBI. Now, also, have you guys ever seen the movie Narcos? Give me a 1 in the chat. Who's seen Narcos? There were 2 of them. If you've seen the movie Narcos, great movie, especially the first one. Put a 1 in the chat because I'll tell you why this is relevant. So at least some people, you guys know what I'm referring to. What's up, Green Eclectic Mama? Good to see you. All right. In that movie, remember, that they recruited the FBI agent. What's the woman's name? The English woman who played the FBI agent. She was on a task force. I get it for like a trafficking task force. So it looks like most people, it was a big movie. So, all right, Sean Marie, thank you for clarifying that. That's what I remember because I got an advanced copy of that book because The Devil's Advocates, and I remember reading that. So thanks, Green Eclectic Mama. Same to you. I have my sister's cats are stalking me right now. They're circling me. One of them is about to jump on me. So if you see a cat jump on me, he's being stealth. He's trying to be. Here he is. Beat it. Beat it. This guy is going to knock my stuff over. All right. So in Narcos, they bring in this woman because they're doing cartel operations. She gets brought in, and then they bring her to Mexico. Now, she's an FBI agent. They're supposed to be working within American borders. CIA is supposed to operate outside of American borders. Now, in that movie, the reason why they co-opted her is because in order for the CIA to get involved in domestic operations, they would have to have a joint operation with another agency. She didn't know that that's what was going on. And that's why they brought her in. And then she learned it and she kind of flipped out. So think about that for a minute and think about Christopher Whitcomb and his background. In my opinion, you guys tell me what you think. It seemed like in every interview that he did, he was keeping the focus of the interview. He was steering it and keeping it from going anywhere he didn't want the interview to go. Right? That was what he was doing, in my opinion. It seems pretty obvious. He was not diverting away from the book and specific information. He would never give his opinion about the significance of this black SUV that he said was the really big thing. And so somebody like him with his kind of a background, anybody who's thinking about these things has to wonder. Right. And Green Eclectic Mama, I agree. I understand what you mean. But what I know of the Custody Queens and Ron, and I don't know Outkast, but I've seen him on their show, is they were letting him talk. They were letting him go and let him expand on things. Because every time anybody has ever tried to go somewhere, if he doesn't want to go there, he shuts it down. And then you're dead in the water. Then you don't have a flow of the interview. So, yeah, and I agree. Look, you don't get to be a special agent for the FBI and a CIA operative, for lack of a better word, unless you are good with operations. Now, I'm going to comment on what Sean Marie just said. So I agree, Satire. He was steering the conversation with great skill and experience. And I said almost that exact same thing yesterday. So I'm going to comment on what Sean Marie said, long, windy answers, and what Chanel said. There's a reason why people do that, a specific reason, if you pay attention. It's why politicians do it. It's why business people, like big tech people and big CEOs who may be doing things that the public doesn't like, because it's basically prevarication. You're dancing around the actual question. But another thing that it does, people want to hear what somebody has to say. And so if they just go on and talk and talk and talk, people oftentimes will focus on that rather than the fact that they're not answering the question. And people get distracted, for lack of a better way to put it. Yeah, diversion. This is what I was getting at, Chanel. I've talked about this ad nauseum on my channel, on other channels. Sometimes operations, sometimes they're psyops. To get the public to think a certain way, to feel a certain way, to behave in a certain way. Sometimes it's just distraction. And what I call, quote unquote, flooding the zone. Notice how strategically timed the release of information has been in this case. It trickles out over time, and then, oh, this bombshell book comes out, and then, oh, the Brent Turvey's interview, and oh, Chris Holland's interview. Could that stuff be distraction and diversion tactics? I'll let you guys decide for yourself. Yeah, Green Eclectic Mama, I was watching some of that. The Custody Queens and Ron were broadcasting it and commenting on it, but I didn't get to watch the whole thing. So, in all the interviews I've seen with Chris Whitcomb, including the one that I was on with the Devil's Advocates, I asked him a certain question about the bodies being covered. And he very quickly steered away from that question. I was asking it in a forensic psychology perspective because I did study forensic psychology and I also read a lot of books on profiling. So I was asking him that more in the context of what are the implications related to forensic psychology about the person if the victims were covered or some of them. So yeah, right, Chanel. I mean, I think that you have to wonder the timing of when this is what I always talk about, the timing of things. What are they trying to distract people away from? Are they distracting away from another event that's happening in the world? Again, and I say all the time, people look at true crime. They have this schema of true crime. People that like to dig into true crime cases. And so they're used to viewing true crime cases in that context. What happened? Are there any suspects? What's the evidence? If someone gets arrested, who's this person? What's their background? How did this happen? What was their motive? That would be a normal way that people would look at a true crime case. But in my opinion, in high profile cases where there's a lot of weird stuff going on around the case and is seemingly a cover up and there's a lot of coordination, I start questioning more and I start digging deeper. And that's the way that I've always looked at that kind of stuff. So, when I see interviews like this, both the Custody Queens one that they just did with Ron and Outkast, and then Lana. Now, Lana was asking good faith questions and pushing him regarding the SUVs that he referred to in his book. And she was pointing out that the woman that had been interviewed about going back to feed her cats or something, that it wasn't actually her that they tried to pin that vehicle on. And they had a little argument. And my take on that was Lana was doing a good faith probing into information. And that was in the book and that Chris Whitcomb was using as a basis of why that vehicle's important. And Lana was saying, well, she had dug into it further and that information wasn't specifically correct, what he was saying about the two vehicles, coming and going, that it was actually not the same vehicle that he was referring to. But in my opinion, he didn't want to hear it. And he just kept saying, well, this is, I disagree with, this is the information that, I had or what I looked into. And so I wonder if, maybe his intentions aren't to have a good faith discussion about the truth, but rather push a narrative or potentially distract the public. So I'm not saying this, like, for example, if I worked for the CIA. Yeah, so Green Eclectic Mama saw it, and she knows what I'm talking about. If I worked for the CIA and I was an operative and I was working to push an agenda, and that's a whole other rabbit hole what the CIA actually does, that we could talk about it for 3 hours. But if that's my job, that's my job. So, I've never worked in that world, so I can't speak to what kind of dude Chris is. I don't know him. I met him on the stream, and he plays guitar, and I've been playing guitar and playing music professionally for decades. And we talked about that briefly. So we share something. Maybe if I knew him in real life, I would get along great with the guy and we'd have a lot in common. I don't know. But I've never worked in intelligence and federal law enforcement. So, yeah, Chanel, I mean, this is kind of the thing that I talk about, distractions. So I'm not attacking the character, or it's not a personal attack on Chris Whitcomb. It's a fair question. What are his motives? What were his motives for writing that book? What are his motives for doing the rounds? Is it to push a narrative? I mean, I've talked about this stuff on my channel: Operation Mockingbird, limited hangouts, controlled opposition. These are the bigger things. This is why I tend to look at cases like the Idaho 4 a little bit differently. Yeah, I mean, satire, look, he seems like a no-nonsense guy, and clearly very knowledgeable man. But I can't speak to what anybody's real motives are, why he came out after the fact, after the broken plea was released. I don't understand what's going on with that, because you have to be patient oftentimes. And I said it the first time I ever went on Birdie Bombshells and talked to Birdie. The elites do things, they plan decades in advance. Their agendas are played out over many years, whereas most regular people don't plan agendas. I'm not saying nobody ever does that. I'm saying, generally speaking, we look at things in the shorter, maybe a year, maybe several months, maybe a few years, maybe 5 years. But elites plan decades in advance. Yeah, I mean, Green Eclectic Mom, I'm presuming you're speaking about Whitcomb. Look, you don't do what he's done without being intelligent. He's clearly a sharp guy, and he knows about psychology. I can tell you that for sure. Yeah, it's generational satire. 100% agree. Chanel, are you talking about Whitcomb? I think that's, if in my opinion, that's a tactic. He's hedging his bets. He's very charismatic. I agree. Yeah, and he did say Green Eclectic Mom. He's very intelligent and charismatic. I mean, he really is. That's probably why he was in both of the agencies, of course. Yeah, I've said it. You can't get to that level. If you're a special agent for the FBI, you have to be sharp. Whitcomb said to Lana, there may be, yeah, he did. And I said that yesterday. It's pretty clear he's going to do another book. Yeah, if there's a trial, but guys, this is, to me, I can't see, I've put myself at a major disadvantage. And I've talked about this before. My theories are never going to come to light, what I believe happened, the most likely things. The JFK assassination happened in 1963. It's been 63 years. We still don't know really what happened. We still don't really know what happened on 9/11. We still don't really know what happened with all the stuff that started in spring of 2020. So, yeah, he clearly implied that he was writing another book. He all but confirmed it. So, in fact, he might have said, if there is a trial, I'm going to write another book. I think he might have said that. So, in my opinion, you have to be somewhat critical, at least analyze it critically, when someone with his background comes out and writes a book about a true crime case that he was not involved in before, not speaking about at all. So, that's one of the things that I tend to think about. Yeah, look, I agree, Green Eclectic Mama. And Vanilla Cenobite, welcome. If this is truly a psyop, then nothing we see or hear on either side matters really, which sucks. I was just talking about this with Philly. Remember, everything that we know about all the people that were involved in the crimes, the victims, the surviving roommates, the periphery of the case, Brian Koberger, is what we have been told. And then people could say, well, yeah, obviously, that's what we know about them. But if there was something bigger going on, dig into the history of operations, the background, the foundational stuff a little bit, and you'll start to see patterns emerge where people have histories that were questionable, that were basically either created or their histories were whitewashed or scrubbed. I mean, try to find information about Cy Ray, about his family, about what he did besides just being a law enforcement officer. I tried. It's very difficult to find information. So, and I think that, look, psyops function, there's all kinds of ways that a psyop could function. It could be to cover something up that really happened. It could be create the appearance of certain things happening that either didn't happen or didn't happen the way the public is being told they happened. And I can tell you this, one of the things I'm very confident about is what, number one, I asked the question, why were we seemingly lied to so much? So that makes me think that everything we've been told about what actually happened is false, or it could be. So the most basic elements of the case that we have been told could be completely false. And something very different could have happened that facilitated a change of narrative. And there's many things that you could think about if a powerful institution would face backlash if the truth got out. When big money's on the line, a lot of things can be accomplished and a lot of coordination can be established. All right. Let's see. Green eclectic mama. Plus, during most of the interviews, these college kids don't even know Kaylee or call her. Yeah, I noticed or call her Kayla. Yeah, it's very. There's a lot of weird shit. Kiss me where I pee. What's up? Good to see you. It is crazy. Yeah, right. This is an obvious one I've talked about a lot, right? I think you've probably heard me talk about this. If let's say something happened that was just say hypothetically, there was a drug relate crimes were somehow connected to drugs. What would happen to the enrollment of that school if any number trafficking in the area that there were there was a lot of drug dealing happening, whatever. If that got out to the public, how many parents would have, number one, pulled their kids out of school, and number two, started looking for another school to send their kids to? So, that's just basic. That's big money right there. Because people, it's not, think about it, guys. It's not just the tuition, it's all the student loans that on the back end that entities would lose a lot of money on. So I don't know. I think that you have to look at the big. Oh, sorry about that. I was just putting that up. Satire. We are all creatures of habits in some way. We are studied and be the narrative for the majority to consume. Yeah. I mean, people, in my opinion, a lot of people don't really dig for the truth. As long as they get a narrative that they can use somehow, they, they can sleep at night. Give them a narrative that the government's really working for our benefit. Give them a narrative that this quote unquote side is really cares about these issues, and this quote unquote side really cares about these other issues. Sometimes that's enough for people. All right, so Sean Marie says AI says over 12,000 students at U of I, over 16,000 at WSU. Yeah, I mean it's not to say that everybody would bail, but just like in the Austin, the Lady Bird Lake stuff that happened in Austin, where all these bodies were turning up in Lady Bird Lake, and there was talk about a serial killer, and the law enforcement kept denying it. Because what would happen? UT Austin is huge, huge school, a very respected school, huge sports program. What would happen if it got out that there was a serial killer that had been operating for years in and around Austin, Texas? And they lied I mean, in my opinion, they lied to the public because they were trying to save the local economy, save the school from having fallout. Yeah, I mean, so let me refocus and get back to right. This is a good point. Definitely a reason to double down. Money will always drive narratives. And let's be honest, guys, we're not getting the truth from the government. I mean, come on, let's get serious here. Then look at how many things we've been lied to about. It's too many to count, too many to talk about. All right, so I rambled on. We got E-Potty in the house. E-Potty, what's up, dude? Oh, sorry about that. My handler and I negated each other. E-Potty, when I first read the book, because I got, like I said, I got a PDF of it before it was released. I thought maybe this guy's trying to you know, drop some knowledge on the DL about what we should be looking at. But then when I watched the way he answered questions, I wasn't sure about that. And I would I'm going based on what I know of now. Oh, wait, E-Potty. Let me just follow up on that because I see what your other comment was. Let me just follow up on that. Could he have been saying things in code to signal not to us, but to other entities? I would say that's possible. I mean, anything's possible, but I would say that is something I could get on board with. All right, Vanilla. I'm just going to call you Vanilla. I like that. I wish we could figure out this whole bombshell stuff he was teasing on the relation. Right. But what does that do? What, guys, what does that do? It gets people running around trying to talk about things. If you want to get people to not find the truth for whatever reason, whatever your motives are, the best way to do it with a community that digs into stuff is gives them some tidbits, some breadcrumbs to follow about other things. And I'm going by the totality of everything that's happened in this case. Right? So that's kind of how I look at it. I'm not just looking at certain small things. My damn computer's telling me I have an update supposed to happen tonight. Better not happen while I'm doing the stream, guys. I already have problems with my camera. Yeah, I mean, they're just it's a way to get people, like distract people, put them off the trail, right? Put them off the scent of something that you don't want them to find out. Like, for example, a big glaring one is the timeline. All these people, you have one person saying, "Oh, the timeline, that's not important," or the beer pong table, that's I don't care about that. That's not important. Or the big thing is the black SUV, but yet they all still go with the 4 a.m. timeline. Could it be they're trying to distract away from the earlier timeline? Could that be it? So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that we could dig into a little bit regarding why people are presenting certain narratives. And again, I just want to emphasize this. This whole idea of flooding the zone, just sometimes it's just distraction. Flood the zone with a bunch of different stuff, a bunch of videos, a bunch of interviews. And let's be honest, there's some people in the periphery of this case that have been somewhat suspicious, in my opinion. What's up, Shelly? How you doing? Welcome. So I don't know. I'm just going based on what I see. Now, you notice, guys, I want to get you guys E-Potty. I've seen Fight Club a bunch of times, and I'm sure you could jog my memory I mean, it starts out, right, with Edward Norton, right? Is that tell me what you're referring to because I haven't seen it in a while. You're gonna make me go back and watch it again. Um, so you notice that, Christopher Whitcomb, he was teasing certain things in his recent interviews, and he wouldn't expand on certain things. People would, "Oh, Jack is a project." Yeah, right, right, right. Okay. Yeah, yeah. You mean Tyler? Or wasn't it Tyler that was the, projectionist, and he would slip the nude pictures and stuff into the film? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, he would people would be watching a movie, and then it'd be like a picture of a dick would pop up on screen or something. Oh, man. Yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying that about that the alter ego thing and all that stuff. I was just well, my chat is not scrolling for some reason. That's weird. Yeah, so yeah, the subliminal stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. Does anybody know the answer to that? Yeah, right. I mean, look, what did I've talked about predictive programming, and there's a lot of that kind of where remember if you go back to the movie Snake Eyes, the guy is Tyler the Destroyer or something like that, the boxer, and then the guy who gets shot is like something Kirk. He gets shot in the neck. Um, look, man, for let's just go crazy for a minute. Let's just put on our tinfoil hats. Everybody, if you're ready to put the tinfoil hat on, let's do it because just for a thought exercise, what if certain entities who have a long and storied connection to the intelligence agencies, what if they were just psyoping the public and they were just like wink, wink, nod, nod when they're drinking scotch and smoking cigars? And they're like, yeah, we'll just use themes from older movies for our psyops. I mean, it's just if you've read enough about those agencies, you start to see patterns emerge. This is why Ipati and I go to battle about aliens. Yeah, and he's writing a book about Dylan McDermott, right? Coming up, right? Is it Dylan McDermott? It's that the actor. Um, it right? Is it Dylan McDermott? You guys can let me know in the chat. Doc Martens always gave you American History X vibes. Who's in the club? I think a lot of people are. Oh well, if you're talking about Whitcomb, guys, you don't. th- I've read enough about the CIA. All right, I'll tell you guys a little backstory about some stuff that I looked into. You guys know the band The Police, the famous band, Sting, Stuart Copeland, Andy Summers. Yeah, I agree. Green Eclectic Mama. I figured that's who you were talking about. Stuart Copeland is American. The Police were a English band. Stuart Copeland grew up in the Middle East, and he moved to London, and then he met the guys who were in the Police. They were in other bands. Stuart Copeland's father was one of the founding members of the CIA, Miles Copeland. And Stuart Copeland didn't know his father was in the CIA until he was 17. He thought his father's cover story was that he was an oil guy. Now, I want you to understand some of my views to help explain why I believe some of the things that I believe. The cover story of the CIA is that it was an intelligence gathering agency that came from the Office of Strategic Services, which was a wartime intelligence gathering agency. The CIA became a permanent intelligence gathering agency. And I think that if you look into it and really dig a little, you'll see who actually started the CIA. They were supposed to just give intelligence briefings to the president. But if you look at all the things they were involved in, and you look at who the initial top guys were in the CIA, it was all Wall Street people. So I believe the CIA is not a national security related agency. I believe they are an agency designed to forward elite financial interests around the globe. That's my opinion based on information that I've had. But let me rewind. Stuart Copeland did a audiobook series on Audible, Amazon Prime, Audible. It's called My Dad the Spy. Now, he doesn't break any crazy ground in it, but he talks about his father's life, his life growing up in the Middle East, what his father, who the people were that his father was involved in. And on a podcast one time, Stuart Copeland, I heard this myself. He said, yeah, my father's job was to recruit and train the dictators that were being installed in the Middle East. So the point I'm trying to make is that his father's cover was he was an oil guy. Christopher Whitcomb stated, his words, when I got my journalism cover. On the list? I'm definitely on the list. I don't know if that's what you were referring to, but so, I look at, well, I'd like to get some people's feedback. I want to see sort of I want to take the temperature of the chat and see what people think about the interviews that came out recently. Do you think that they're just people who are just trying to get to the truth because they really want Brian Koberger to be exonerated in a new trial? Or do you think they're brought out strategically to push forth a narrative? Some people really get angry when I talk about this stuff because if you had to rethink big picture things that you have believed for a long time, it's probably an uncomfortable thing. I'm sorry. I think I just, well, Shelly, I mean, if you knew how shadow banned I was on platforms like X, it's without question that I was shadow banned on X, without question. And I talk about big picture things. The people, in my opinion, that tend to get boosts, I'm talking about the big content creators, tend to be the ones that are either A, pushing official narratives, or B, very divisive. And I'm neither. I don't try to be divisive. I know I'm pie in the sky. I'm so naive. I try to unite people. I'm well aware of the way the world works. Satire says, I think Dr. Turvey is part of the mainstream narrative. The others, or you don't think he's part of the mainstream narrative. Clarify that, because I think that's probably what you meant. Well, here's the thing. Remember, controlled opposition is somebody that appears to be against the quote unquote establishment or the establishment narrative or the mainstream narrative. But then it ties in with like limited hangouts, which I've done episodes about this. Okay, yeah, satire. That's what I thought you were referring to. I don't know. I don't know. Look, someone could be like the greatest person in the world, but if they're hired to do something or carry out a task, maybe it's national security related. Maybe people think they're doing the right thing. There's all kinds of people. You just never know. Now, this is a good one right here. Vanilla. I've looked into DARPA is run by the CIA, by the way. People didn't know that. I just honestly believe nothing I see or hear anymore. I love researching this case, but my gut tells me it's a deeper mystery than anything we see publicly. And I've been saying that for a very long time on multiple different channels I've been on. Yeah, Sean Marie. I use a Proton Mail, but it's not encrypted unless the other person has an encrypted email as well. So, and I don't know. I don't know what you can trust. Chanel, good point. They got to stir the pot, man. There's money in this too, guys. There's big money in the true crime arena. It's possible, Shelley. I've recommended the book Dark Alliance by Gary Webb. It's a pretty dense book, I'm not going to lie. And I bought it as a reference because I was reading other books at the time. And I'm reading 2 books right now. So I'm way behind in my reading. Dark Alliance talks about the CIA getting involved with drug and gun trafficking to fund the Contras. It's the whole connected with Oliver North, and it's a whole thing. They had a whole web and Southern Air Transport, which is the movie American Made with Tom Cruise. But yeah, there's been a long and storied history of the intelligence agencies collaborating with certain organizations. Yeah, satire. I mean, I've been saying that too. We just don't know because I could look if I just cared about clicks, I could every stream that I did, I could find new information to dissect. And I could keep everybody super compelled and talk about stuff. But my honest feeling is you have to zoom out more and look at the bigger picture things. And I think Birdie does that. I think he does talk about a lot of details, but he understands the big picture. And I know this for a fact because I've had long conversations with Birdie about this stuff. But everybody has their own take on things, right? Everybody, like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me if people disagree with me. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, man, that goes on that even in this day and age, a lot of people don't know the backstory and they don't know the foundational information about this stuff. You guys know I went there. I went to Idaho. I met DA in Idaho in November. And we went all over Idaho. And, by all accounts, just being there and going to different places, you see what you see. You see a state with a lot of nature and rugged terrain, and it's very wide open in spots. And you have Boise, which is similar to Denver. It's a pretty progressive city. And you have, a largely conservative state, and that has a history of activity by certain organizations. And every state, every country has dark things in their history. This is stuff for another stream, perhaps, but stuff I'm going to be talking about in the near future is, like, for example, the founding of the United States, the Revolutionary War, the Civil War. We've all been taught certain things. But then when you do your own digging and you aggregate information from different sources, you start to see pretty clearly that we've been fed narratives throughout history. All right. What's up? Undercover Mermaid. Good to see you. Welcome. Yeah, Bohemian Grove. You've got we could go on and on about this stuff. You got the Bilderberg Group. You've got the World Economic Forum, the Atlantic Council, the Aspen Institute, the Heritage Foundation, the Council on Foreign Relations. There are many organizations that are comprised of people either from elite backgrounds like Skull and Bones at Yale. It goes on and on and on. There have always had a lot of influence on the power structure. And some argue that they are the power structure. The further you zoom out, I think the more if you open your mind, the more you learn about the way the world really works. And that's how my brain works. Guys, that's really, I can't help it. If I see information, my brain automatically just instantly goes and it makes a connection to other things. And I've always been like that. Chanel, since Idaho 4 happened, look how many people have woke up and are starting to question the narrative. I agree, which, think about it. If you let's imagine an onion, and you have at the outer layers of the onion is like the things that everyday people butt up against in society, that what the media talks about, people's everyday lives. But the further you get in to the center of the onion is the more powerful big picture things. They see people start peeling away at the onion with the smaller things. Well, what could that lead to? People start making connections, and then they might start digging into other things. They don't want the majority of the population seeing behind the curtain, which is why the elites protect each other. They always protect each other. They could appear as arch enemies. When it push comes to shove, they all protect each other. Yeah, Ipati, I've talked about this a lot. I don't expect people to remember all the things that I've spoken about, by the way. But anybody who's listened to me knows that I've talked about a lot of this stuff. And my handler has heard me talk about this stuff at great length. And yeah, I mean, I don't think you need everybody to wake up. I think you need a critical mass of people to wake up. That's why I always talk about tipping points and paradigm shifts. So, I try to get, and also people, I don't know if that's the link to this Discord, but please join the Discord because then you can participate, sharing information with each other, discussing things. I do look at information that people have provided, like Karen Bell provided some good info that I did look into, and I actually did an episode relating to one of the documents that she sent, which I was already planning to do, the fifth generation warfare. Yeah, I agree, satire. Lasting change, think it's taken us hundreds of years to get to where we are. It takes time. And you just gotta, in my opinion, still live your life. Don't let them derail your happiness because that's what they want. Chanel, I'm the type of person that looks outside of the box on everything. Sometimes it's not a good thing. Same here. I'd probably be better off if I didn't think the way that I tend to think. Meaning I'd probably would be more at peace with everything that's going on. But it's just not the way my brain works. I mean, there's so many examples. So let me bring it back. I don't know what kind of a dude Christopher Whitcomb is. So my discussions about his intentions in his book are just questions, just asking questions. Any intelligent person that knows the way the world works is going to ask certain basic questions. Now, he would never come on my channel. I mean, just we wouldn't get anywhere. But I can't help but to look at the big picture. I think when you know what you know, and look, people can easily try to do the, trust the experts thing. If you connect enough dots, you get to at the least the conclusion that we're not told the truth about things. If we're told the truth, it's limited hangout truth, where they tell you some things, but not everything, to satiate most people, so they don't dig any deeper or ask any more questions. All right. Philly, what do you think about taking some questions from the chat? It's a pretty intimate group. What do you guys think? Throw up some questions for discussion. I'd love to I missed this one here. Yeah, oh no, I think we saw that. I'm out of time with the chat here. So you guys in the chat, throw up some questions just to stimulate discussion on stuff. You know my take on what I believe is happening. And I'm not saying this to defend anybody. Like, yes, I've talked to the custody queens and Ron, and obviously, I'm on Birdie's show, and I was on the Devil's Advocates. Everybody has their own way of conducting an interview. And the custody queens and Ron, they're attorneys. What are they gonna? They have to stay within the scope. What's up, Chickadee? How you doing? Welcome. Good to see you. All right, satire. What are your thoughts about the fireman shooting on the mountain in Idaho before the plea? I mean, I'll get into that. Formerly known as Beck, good to see you. I love those guys. That's why I'm a strong supporter of them. I listen see, I said this in my video yesterday, and I said it in a comment on their video. This is actually what I do sometimes. If I see that somebody in an interview is not they're prevaricating, they're steering, they're avoiding, I watch the way that, for example, the custody queens are on and Outkast too. He did the same thing. I watched them and how they're listening. I watch their facial expressions. I watch the people being interviewed's body language and the way that I pay attention to how they're answering questions. The custody queens and Ron they're smart. They were trust me, they were sussing things out. And oh yeah, okay, let me catch up with you guys here. Right. Big Amish is gonna I'm going to speak to him this weekend coming up when I get back home. And we're gonna talk. He and I are gonna discuss specifics about what we're gonna talk about, and he's probably going to be on either the 29th or the 29th or the 30th of this month. So, yeah, I'm gonna Chickadee, I appreciate you. Thank you for supporting me. I appreciate it, no matter when you watch it. Um, yeah, Outkast seems like a cool dude. Um, he's pretty measured, with the way he speaks and talks about things, which is good. All right. All right. So Vanilla says, do you think anything will leak as far as how unbelievably covered up this whole Idaho case had been? Like, will there be something like a black market video of the event or somebody else confesses? In the past, I used to say, we're never going to get the truth in this case unless a whistleblower comes forward, and that won't be till down the road. But now, I don't think we're ever going to get the official truth because if you understand the way like limited hangouts and controlled opposition happens, um, you don't know if you're hearing the truth. It could be somebody playing a role, coming out, oh, this is what really happened, which would be a type of a limited hangout. So I don't believe we're ever going to get the full truth on this, to be honest. Shelley Klein, I think this weather manipulation is total bullcrap. Everyday tragedies of nature. It's getting ridiculous. They've gone too far, and I think it should be illegal and stopped. I've talked about this a fair amount, and I'm going to do a comprehensive episode on it in the future. I've followed this stuff for years, and they do extensive geoengineering in Colorado, where I live. I've reached out to the state. I've done a public information request with Colorado. I've reached out to the FAA, and they just run you around in circles. So I think that it is for different reasons, again, depending on what you believe, it's part of a bigger agenda. They're trying to manufacture consent for climate lockdowns, smart cities. This is my opinion based on what I know and stated goals of these globalist organizations. And I believe there potentially is even more nefarious things happening with that. There's a lot of money behind it. So keep that in mind as well. Ipati, WSU professor John Snyder, who BK was teaching assisting for, has this line item on his resume. EM Wildland Fire Simulation, FEMA, Dayton, Washington. Yeah, I mean, look, I've looked it up. There's universities that have geoengineering programs where they're teaching it to students. There's a lot of money behind it, or universities would not be teaching it if there wasn't money behind it. Remember, something I've talked about, manufacturing consent. If you push a narrative, there's a climate emergency, and you don't look beyond that, then you're going to probably support policies that you're being told are to combat the climate emergency, the climate crisis. There's a lot of big, big, big picture stuff happening right now in the world that's really bad. Yeah, I saw some of that, Beck. I saw some of that. You're talking about the interview that the custody queens and Ron were going over. Um, he did on like one of the main news channels or whatever. I think that's the one that I saw. I saw some of it. But look, it's like there's a meme that goes around. You can find it online where it's like a bunch of uh, it's a cartoon of like Spider-Man's dressed as Spider-Man pointing at each other going, "You're a Fed. No, you're a Fed." Sometimes finger pointing is another distraction. Let's see. Tabletop drill, active shooter, WSU emergency management, Pullman, United States of America. Oh, I just wanted to rewind about the shooting in Idaho that happened. You know what? This is one of the things that raises questions with me. When a big event happens and it's all over the news and then it completely disappears, and then there's no follow up, or if there is any, it's minuscule follow up. That's the stuff that I pay attention to. That makes me, hmm. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Beck. The woman, she's pretty good. She seems like pretty straightforward from what I can tell. I don't watch the mainstream media much, though. Yeah, I did an episode on CERN Vanilla recently, a short one, just an overview. And I within that presentation that I did, I talked about some of the controversies and conspiracy theories surrounding CERN. Look, the elites have wanted to control the universe for a long time. That's no secret. And I'm not an expert on CERN. I know the cursory information about it, and I do know some of the conspiracy theories surrounding it, but I haven't done a super deep dive into it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fuckery that goes on. And it's it's crazy because another thing that I look at, and this applies to the Idaho 4 case, whenever you're being criticized for questioning things, that should raise a red flag. Because if we do, in fact, live in a free country, then why would why would the government care if people don't believe everything that they're told? Why would mainstream media people, talking heads, care if people don't buy the official story of something? Aren't we a free people? Don't we have the First Amendment? Aren't we supposed to be able to question things, question authority, have a free flow of information between the government and citizens? Isn't the media supposed to be telling us the truth? I hope you hear the sarcasm in my voice. Sometimes people don't lock in with my sarcasm sometimes. Chiquita Elvidge? Is that Chiquita Elvidge? What's up? Welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, it's all BS, vanilla. Lenny Briscoe, what's up? Good to see you. Thank you for popping in. Yeah, I mean, yeah, guys, please hit the like button. It helps me out. And subscribe to the channel and make sure you're if you want to get notified when stuff's coming up, please make sure your notifications are set because people have told me they didn't get notifications about upcoming lives. Vanilla, this shit drives me crazy. Also, just be thankful you're not Philly because she has to hear me rant about shit when we talk about certain streams that we're going to do. And if you guys have ever seen me, I don't do it often. I don't crash out often, but there are certain things that really get me fired up. Like certain topics, certain things, and I try not to crash out over it, but certain things just drive me nuts. People who won't, like, for example, let's say there's somebody in the chat who vehemently opposes an idea that I might have. But let's say I give a little foundational information about why I believe that. If you are somebody who's interested in the truth, you will go, "Oh, wait, what? I don't know what he's referring to." And you'll go and you'll maybe do a little search, look into something, and see what I'm referencing. When people don't do that, it drives me bananas. Because they're refuting information based on lack of knowledge about the bigger picture of what I might be referring to. Yeah, it's frustrating sometimes, but I'm not giving up because I'm in it for the long game. I want to build a community, and I don't care if I'm getting 1,000,000 views and my channel gets huge right away. I want to build, I want to, cover different things. And then as I go forward, one day when I have more free time, I'll start incorporating writing articles and like Substack and doing some more digging like I always used to do when I research things. But time is a problem. Like I'm juggling a couple of different things. So, if people want to drop some more topics that you might want to discuss, have at it. Feel free because Sundays and the weekends I'll start with a topic, but then like we'll open it up. Tonight, I wanted to touch on the interviews, but I'll talk about whatever anybody wants to talk about. Splendid Melancholy. Thank you. I appreciate that. Welcome in. One of the things that I used to would happen a lot on Devil's Advocates when I was on their show is we might be talking about something that we hadn't talked about that much yet. And sometimes something would click in my head and I could sometimes derail the discussion because it's just the way my brain works. Like Birdie's really good at sticking to the topic that he's addressing in whatever stream. And I can go off on a tangent sometimes because I can't help it. I don't know if it's my ADD or whatever it is, but That's just the way my brain works. I like to try to wrestle with ideas. My thoughts, Vanilla, what are your thoughts on the whole AI UBI situation? Like they're needing a universal income to combat the loss of jobs, economy, and where do I see that going? It's all bad. It's all bad. Why would all these Elon Musk is a perfect example. He's a guy who's saying there is a population collapse happening, not not overpopulation, but yet he's involved with AI and robots. What do you think that's going to do? What happens to all the people who lose their jobs? What happens to those people? I just swallowed a bug. My light is attracting bugs in the basement. Anyway, I think that I'll tell you what I think. I think there is a large, or not large in the sense of the amount of people, but there's a large consensus, like an organization of very wealthy elites that have openly stated for many years that they want to reduce the population. They want stakeholder capitalism, which is a small group of very wealthy elites and institutions will own everything, and everybody has to lease everything from them and have memberships to get access to things and so on. I think that for many years there has been an agenda in place. They openly talk about it. Smart cities, climate lockdowns, you'll own nothing and be happy. We'll give you universal basic income. Think about how ridiculous this is. Elon Musk's posting shit like, you'll have universal high income. So nobody's going to work and they're just going to make a high income. Guys, come on. Like these elites are going to pay people to just collect checks. No, they want to get people used to not working and relying on handouts. And I'm not shitting on the social safety network. That's not what I'm saying. They want to habituate people to getting a basic income. They probably will start with young people. And eventually, as more and more jobs go away, people will have to accept that. And guess what will happen? Then they will determine what you can spend your money on, where you can travel to, what you can say online. I'm telling you, it's preposterous that anybody would believe that these people really believe, like they don't care about humanity. You don't become a billionaire or a trillionaire by caring about humanity. Beelzy, what's up? Good to see you. God, oh man. Crisis, in my opinion, crisis actors exist because you would have to have that. If think about it, if there is, we know that false flags have happened. That's a fact. It's been declassified in certain cases. So you would need people on the media. Look at Operation Mockingbird. Look into that. You would need people who either being interviewed or exposed to the public through the media or social media to push the narrative that you want pushed. Of course, think about this. Operation Mockingbird, in a sense, is like crisis actors. They had people embedded in the media to push narratives. So I can tell you that I've seen certain very suspicious things. with people in the periphery of the case. But since I can't prove anything, I'm reluctant to point the fingers at anybody specifically. It's just, trying to at least keep some things sort of hanging in the air, because that's a big one to accuse people of without me having any sort of evidence to back it up. I know I'm gonna get to these comments here. I saw one. Well, thank you, Splendid Melancholy, because I think that's the way my brain works. I see patterns. I've been like that for my whole life. And Bealsy was saying I could lose my job to AI, all my studies out the window. Yeah, I mean, guys, did you guys see the interview with Tucker Carlson and Sam Altman? If you haven't, I would watch it just for the entertainment value. I think that Lenny, perhaps the Idaho forest tied up with the interruption of the child supply to the evil power elites. Yeah, PDF rules, they sacrifice the children for power to enact their agendas. I mean, I believe that there are dark, dark, dark things that have gone on for a long time. And regular decent people, most of people can't fathom the level of evil that exists in the world. And I really believe that. It's just too much for some people's brains. It's called cognitive dissonance. It would create too much, you know, psychological turmoil to accept that that stuff really goes on, and nothing is done about it. I'm going to plug my channel right now. In one stream, I can't get into the hours and hours and hours of ideas that I have and the different levels that they operate on. It would be impossible, and I can go off the rails if I try to stay on topic. So check out some of the videos I've done, some of the things that I've spoken about. Right, I agree, Lenny. Yeah, the reptilians. I don't know how I feel about the reptilian thing. I believe that there's definitely a lot of things that we can't fathom that happen in the world. Yeah, it's normal it's literally a psychological principle that things that are too uncomfortable for people to accept, they block out, which is like the whole idea of the matrix. The blue pill, you stay in the comfort zone of the illusion. The red pill, you have to face the reality of real reality. And I just want to make sure. Lenny, I think anything's possible. There's the power structure, the way it functions and has for centuries is crazy. Callan, what's up? Good to see you. Real quick. Good to see you, Callan 9140. Yeah, let's get into this here. Vanilla says, so many dark rings. It's sad and it sucks. What do you think of the whole Perez Hilton thing was? Some are saying humiliation ritual. Okay, I typically don't consume anything related to pop culture whatsoever. And I'll see like a little post or something, but I typically don't even get too much into it. But I do know exactly what you're talking about, the whole humiliation ritual. I believe, so let me expand on that for a second. I believe that when you get into high profile situations, whether it be in Hollywood, in the media, even like large scale stuff on social media, you're making a deal with the devil. you are. And I think that people make that deal. And then maybe they don't realize to what extent they made the deal with the devil. I think that happened to Charlie Kirk. And so I do believe that there is a sort of cultish type of a thing that happens at high levels. And I think it's been like that for centuries. I don't think it's anything new. If you dig into secret societies, humiliation rituals are common occurrences. You can read up on it. Um, yep, you're right, Cal, and that's my handler. Let's see. Uh, I haven't watched it. I'll check it out though. Yeah, I mean, Lenny, think about it, especially if you're young. I've made this reference before. If you guys want to go down a rabbit hole, go down the James Dean rabbit hole, the famous actor from the 50s, James Dean. Go down that rabbit hole. That's a good one. There's many others, but I read some books about James Dean back in the day. Think about this. If you, like, let's just say when I was young, because I took acting classes right out of high school. And this is before I was performing live music, before I got into performing live music. I played, but I wasn't like pursuing it or anything like that. So I knew actors and like people were telling me, oh, you should get into acting and all this. And I took some acting classes. And for a minute, I thought, oh, maybe I'll pursue acting. And I lived in LA for a year, but I wasn't pursuing acting when I was in LA. But I was around a lot of people who were. If you're some young person and you get approached, let's say a talent scout, say you're like, now this never happened to me, but let's say you're a young woman or a young man and you're good looking and you've got some star quality and they approach you and say, hey, look, this is what we can do for you. Well, we're going to promote you. We're going to get you these auditions and this, that, and the other. You don't know what their motives are. They could be fishing for certain types of people or powerful people in the entertainment industry. And if you dig into that, that's a whole other rabbit hole. I mean, look at the Marilyn Monroe stuff. Yeah, or Micro Blue. Good to see you. Hold on. Do you know the whole Obi-Wan Kenobi James Dean thing? I don't know if I know that specifically or remember it because I read stuff on James Dean a long, long time ago. Runaways, Micro Blue, good to see you. All right, I'm going to tell you guys a funny story. My handler will probably get a kick out of this. When I went to LA, I was just going to check out California. I wasn't going, and then I'll go back to the chat as soon as I tell the story. Or my handler will post the comments and I'll address them as we go, but I'll tell this quick story. I didn't go there to become an actor or anything. I was going out there, a buddy of mine was relocating with his job, and I was waiting tables. Yeah, like swingers, potty. I'll tell you, I'll tie it into swingers too in a minute. So, I was in my 20s. I was waiting tables. I had just moved back from Florida. I moved around a little bit when I was younger. And so I got this chance to go out to California. And I was working for one of those big corporate restaurants. So they got me a job lined up at one of their restaurants in LA. And it was in the South Bay area. And I went out there and I started playing at this open mic, a huge open mic. And the guy that took over the open mic, so it was hosted for years by this woman. And then this other guy took it over. and I was regularly going to this open mic. It was a big open mic. So the guy who ran it got to know me, and when he was leaving, and he was an interesting guy. I'll get into that in a second. He was leaving to go take over all the music for a big music club. And he asked me to take over the open mic, and I did. Well, it came about that place where they had the open mic, that had this open mic for forever, was closing. Their lease was not getting renewed. So this guy wanted to shoot a documentary about this open mic. And because I was the host, I was going to be one of the main, and it was basically like what's it called when you do like a dramatized documentary? I can't remember what the name is. You guys might know in the chat. And he wanted me, and I was basically going to be one of the main characters. And this guy had written screenplays. He sold screenplays. He wrote music, and was trying to sell original songs, but he had sold like TV episodes, and he's written screenplay, docudrama. Yeah, I guess that's Sean Marie. That's it. I think it's docudrama is the word, or mockumentary kind of thing. But this wasn't going to be like a comedy. But I think docudrama is probably the closest. And fakementary, yeah. I mean, it was going to be based on what was happening, but to add a little spice to it, he paired me up with this girl who was one of the regulars at the open mic, and he created this narrative around us that we were this couple, and that I was going to be leaving soon, and there was this whole, we were going to break up, and it was going to happen right around the time of the last open mic, all this kind of shit. So he would have me come, and literally like midnight, he would call me and be like, yeah, we're going to go shoot a monologue in this park because it's a full moon, like stuff like that. And so here's where I'm going to tie it back into James Dean, and I will talk about Swingers as well. So he tells me, remember, this is LA, guys. I want your character to be like a James Dean type of guy. And I knew about as much as anybody at the time about James Dean. So he bought me a book about James Dean to read. And so I read this book about James Dean. And then I ended up reading another book about James Dean. I was just going along with whatever. And I read a lot. So I was like, okay, cool. And the whole thing fell apart. He was supposed to submit it to a film festival, but he was going through a divorce at this time. And so I did all that shit, and it never even got submitted to this film festival. And this one was like the course of like 2 months. I was filming stuff with this guy, all kinds of wacky shit, wacky people I met. But the Swingers thing was that when we went there, when I moved there, I liked the movie Swingers. And I had gone to the bars that they went to and filmed at it in Swingers and stuff like that. I'm hanging out at this bar one night in Hermosa Beach, and this is right when the law was changed where you couldn't smoke in bars anymore in California. I was living there when this happened, and I used to smoke cigs. And Swingers is one of my favorite movies, E-Potty. I've seen it countless times. So you're going to know this reference. So I'm hanging out at this bar, and I'm outside, and I see this attractive girl, and she's lighting up a cig, and I asked her for a light, and I start talking to her. Long story short, it was the girl who played the Vegas waitress in Swingers, the one that Vince Vaughn hooked up with when they went to Vegas. That's the girl. And she lived right in that area, and I would see her all the time, and right before I left California, I have a picture of me and her. I'm, like, all grungy, shorts, no shirt, flip-flops, and she's all looking hot, and there's a picture of me, my arm around her. I it's somewhere in storage. I hope I still have it. Yeah, yeah, well, there were the two waitresses, right? There was the one that played a character, and there was the one that was serving them in the Vince and, his buddy in the casino. So the one that was serving them drinks. Yeah, it was yeah, it was really funny. Yeah, I'm no James Dean, but I just thought it was funny that this guy was trying to, like, he wanted me to be this, like, brooding James Dean type of character. People in, LA are characters, man, that's for sure. It was funny, man. It was funny because I love that movie, and look, I used to see her. I would pa after that night and I met her, I would bump into her, like, several times I crossed paths with her. She lived, like, right down the street from me. Callan, since we were talking about the frailty of the human mind and not to make this about Idaho 4, let's talk about the echo chambers that some of the true crime communities have become. Look, I don't really follow any of the mainstream true crime channels. Um, I never really did. A little bit, some of them that are good at least providing information, but I can't tell you, um, I just don't consider myself like a true crime creator. So that's why I don't talk about things the way a lot of people do, and it probably is boring to people who really dig the true crime stuff. I get it. I was more into profiling and the forensic psychology end of it. That is the only reason I ever followed any true crime. And I read a lot of books about serial killers, and I studied serial killers in college. I read not all of them, but a lot of the profiling books by John Douglas. He's the guy who started the behavioral, assessment unit, I think, at the, FBI. Thank you for saying that, Lenny. I appreciate that. And my handler got to hear a really crazy story one time, and I backed it up with bona fide proof. So, like, I have definitely got some crazy stories and stuff, but I don't make up stories. People think because some of my stories are crazy. I've done a lot of wacky stuff. That's the only reason I have wacky stories. Look, I say it all the time. I like shout out to the channels that have supported me. And I've said it before. People ask me why I'm not on Devil's Advocates. It's just they're doing things a certain way and doing like interviews with big attorneys and the Whitcomb interview and all that stuff. My approach is different, and DA and we're grown men. I've said it before. We're gonna have differing opinions about how to approach things. It's just the way it is. Um, I just it's just the way I can't help it. Like if we're talking about something, you guys will see it. If an idea that I can connect something to pops into my head, it's my nature to talk about that. And it's yeah, it's just and e-potty, I do write, and I did start writing a book. It's nothing to do with my life, but it's just finding time to work on that stuff is really hard between a full-time job and playing music on the weekend. and trying to get my channel going, it's really hard. So well, thank you, Callan. I try to, when I tell people theories, one thing you can look at my videos I've done. I don't talk about things unless I have some logical foundational basis for it. Like, I won't just get into it. First of all, I won't talk about a conspiracy theory that I don't know a lot about. I might heard about it, but I won't dig into something if I don't know a lot about it. In your intro, what movie is that a reference to? It's not I don't think it's a reference to any movie, actually. Robin from Devil's Advocates created that. She created that video, and I only dream about being that jacked, by the way. But she did a great job with it, so I kept it as my intro. If that's what you're referring to, like the State of the Deep intro, it was just she did used AI and created it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of historical stuff that I'm not a history expert, but I have tried to dig into pivotal times in history to see how these revolutions took place and to see how the power structure manipulates things. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Robin made that for me. She took the time to do it. Um, and I appreciate it. Yeah, Robin's great at that shit. She's really good at that. She got really good at it because she was doing a lot. She started, her and Dago and those guys started doing those crazy intros for Devil's Advocate. So it's all about patterns. It's all about patterns. I've talked about it. I've talked about it so many times. If you are good at pattern recognition, you can look at history and you see these patterns emerge time and time again throughout history. Because why? Think about it. If something is effective, why would you change it? Right? If you were some power elite and you've for centuries these certain things, divide and conquer, that's one of them. I mean, it's always worked. So why would you stop using it? It's tried and true. It works in conjunction with human behavior, which incorporates tribalism. So why would you stop? I mean, it just makes perfect sense to me. So I have to get my rooster off the roof. So if my handler wants to jump up to stir some shit, I'll be right back.
I'm here. Hi, guys. Why do you think Trump does that fist gesture? I have no idea, Shelley Klein. I don't know why he does it. Let's see what else. Keep the questions coming, guys. Let's see what else. Ever go to the Viper Room? I've been by the Viper Room. I know you're asking JJ. He's old enough to know. He probably went to the Viper Room. When I was there, it was already closed. Here in New York City. Next win. Okay, E-Potty, enjoy that win. You might not see one for another 40 years. So you enjoy that parade. When we have like 3 parades here next year with our, our Eagles, Sixers. Hopefully we get the Phillies back. When. He's just taking his time. You see him? Do. All right, JJ, they're not talking to me, but somebody wants to know, did you ever go to the Viper Room?
No, I don't think it was there when I was in LA.
It was closed when I went over there, but
I was there a long time ago. So maybe maybe, I don't know, actually, maybe it was there. I don't think it was. I don't remember when that opened and when it closed. So it could have been around, but I never went there. I would go to Hollywood. I didn't live near Hollywood. I lived in the South Bay area, but I would play music at this one open jam in Hollywood that was hard to get on stage at. Because like anywhere you go, if they don't know you, it's harder to get in, sort of. And I started going to this place in Hollywood. I hung out in Hollywood a little bit. Hold on a sec. Shelly, I think that might be what has to happen. Citizens have to stop relying on the government. They're not going to do shit about it. I really don't think anything's going to ever happen to Fauci.
Nope.
I can tell you, if you want, I can tell you my theory about Fauci, but I have talked about it before. But let's see, I don't want to miss anything. I think that citizens need to start taking action and completely disregard the idea that the government is ever going to get resolution for anything, for any corruption. Who do you think shoots the Havana Syndrome gun? Which gun is that, Lenny? Remind me. Well, the pharma companies have immunity, but there are other avenues that can be followed. But like I said before, the elites protect each other. Always. They always have, and they always will. Even the people you think are working on your behalf, I would argue that most of them are not. Hold on. I was missing some of the chat, so let me back up a little bit. I'll put a couple of them up here. Beelzy says I was so.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, E-Potty was just rubbing in his parade today, so I had to, put him back at his place since he had one winning team in the last 30 years.
The solar eclipse, but it was foggy, only darkness for 30 seconds. Oh yeah. I didn't even know there was a solar eclipse. Vanilla says, I was thinking early mid 90s just looked kind of cool. I came up in the early 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, and I when you're a kid, you're not thinking about the economy, you're not thinking about politics, especially back then before social media. I had a great time. I hung out in New York City all the time, and it was grungy and shitty before Giuliani took it over. And I spent a lot of time in New York City and going to see bands, and I was into the whole grunge scene. Yeah, to this point here, I can't stress this enough. I just talked about this. I did a short. I posted a short about this. I'll just say the left and the right, they act like they hate each other, and the one side stands for this and the other side stands for that. It's all fake, in my opinion. I've seen enough evidence. They protect each other. It's nothing of any real consequence ever happens to them for corruption. It never happens to the bankers. It never happened to the bankers that crashed the economy in 2008. It never happens to all the companies that violate antitrust laws. It's they protect each other. It's all a game to keep us distracted. It's just the way that it all works. It's pretty, I mean, I've seen enough to be convinced of that. Yeah, I remember Wetlands. I was hanging out. Trying to think if I ever saw a show at Wetlands. I know exactly where it was. And I don't even remember some of the names of the bars that I used to go to see bands at. I worked at a famous music club for a minute in New York called The Bottom Line. And somebody just last week gave me a book about it. The owner of The Bottom Line just wrote a book about the history of The Bottom Line. I just started reading it. It was in the Village, the West Village. What's the shirt? Oh, this shirt? Dallas sucks. That is pretty funny. I was wondering why you put that on there. I was like, well, why the hell is she putting that up there? All right. Yeah, I mean, I remember some bands like the Spin Doctors came up playing, and Blues Traveler came up playing at Wetlands. I never saw them live, but they were big at that time in the 90s, sort of. They got killed somewhat by the grunge scene. Yeah, so New York City in the early 90s was a wild place, man. I hung out all over New York City, and some crazy stuff happens there, let me tell you. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't hung out there in a long time, but I don't know, man. I think don't get me started on the aliens thing. We need some kind of a reset, but not the one that the power structure wants. They desperately want a reset, one that in which they have total control. Lehman Brothers, yeah, they were players in that whole thing. Anyway, yeah, New York was a fun place because for anybody who hasn't or never hung out in New York back in the day, you could be on one side of the city as hanging out at a bar, and you meet some people and they're like, "Oh, we're going to this place to see this band." Next thing you know, you're on the other side of the city. You jump in a cab. There were no Ubers back then. You jump in a cab and you're on the other side of the city at some bar seeing a band. It was a fun place. Let's see what I missed here. I remember I wasn't a huge basketball fan, but I used to follow all the sports back in the day, football, basketball, hockey, all that stuff. And Seton Hall was playing in the Final Four. And I was living not that far from Seton Hall. And me and a bunch of my wrestling teammates went to this bar at Seton Hall to watch the game. I can't remember who they were playing. It was either UNC or it was, oh man, I can't remember who it was. I didn't know. I was not an avid fan, but I was, it was the NCAA finals, and I was following it because there were a few guys from where I grew up that were on one of the teams that was playing. And I can't remember the other team, but I remember going there, being at the school for that game was insane. It was wild, man. People get crazy with sports, man. Crazy. Oh no, at this point, it's up to you guys what you want to talk about. We can wrap up early, we can go later. I'll let the chat decide. But while you guys decide if you guys want to keep going and talk about some stuff, let me just go back and sort of wrap up my thoughts on the Christopher Whitcomb interviews. In my opinion, he steers the conversation too much. And I believe, just my personal opinion, someone's a good faith actor, they don't steer the conversation. So they may say, I don't want to run and get into that or whatever, but they don't really steer it so much. Because if I was being interviewed about something, I might not expand on certain topics that either I don't want to or I'm not knowledgeable about, but I'll let the interview go where the interview goes, and I'll give my thoughts on what people are asking me about. Billy, what are you referring to? I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, you were saying that we go crazy for sports, or some people go crazy for sports.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped watching regular sports because it gets to the point where it's just like too much time. Just why I stopped watching all these different series on the streaming platforms, because man, you get sucked into that shit. Yeah, let me provide some background, E-Potty. All right, guys, I know psychology. I know people. I worked in sales for 11 years. I've dealt with people my whole life. I went to school to become a psychotherapist. I studied forensic psychology. I studied conflict and violence, taught by a retired special agent for the FBI. I know human behavior. I know it from real life, and I know it academically. I trust my instincts based on the information that I know. And he seems like he is steering. He's maybe manipulating the conversations. I just can't unsee that. E-Potty, why does that not surprise me? Oh, this is funny right here. I missed this one. Vanilla. I was going to clubs in New York when I was 17 because I had older siblings. And back then, if you were, it was totally different back in the day. If you were dressed decent and you were with older people, they wouldn't even card you half the time. And I was going to all kinds of crazy places in the city when I was underage. I was going to bars underage for years before I was old enough. I mean, yeah, I was doing that same shit, but not 15. It was typically started going into the city probably around 17. I think everything's fake at this point, E-Potty. I think look at all the new streaming shows about the CIA. They're trying to whitewash the CIA. It's so fucking obvious. All right. So it's up to you guys. You know, it's 10:15 Eastern time. All right, so Vanilla, I didn't know that you had a channel. Oh, how's your liver? I thought you said how was your live today? That's pretty funny. I don't party hard anymore, but since I've been back visiting old friends and stuff, I've had some drinks. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I used to party hard when I was young, and I can't do that shit anymore. Because back in the day in New York, bars are basically open all night. So you'd go to a bar, it would close at, say, 3. Then a club might have been open till 4. At least some clubs were open till like 7 a.m. Then you had after hours bars that would open at like 4 a.m. So you could basically go out all night long in New York City back in the day. I honestly don't know if it's still like that. Yeah. Vanilla, I can't, I don't drink that much anymore. I'll have a couple of glasses of wine if I'm playing a gig or something, but that's the extent of it. And I never have alcohol at home anymore. I almost never drink at home. Yeah, the city was the city that never sleeps. I don't know if it still is. What do you want to do, Philly? Talk to me.
It's up to them. Does anybody want to come up and chat? It's up to them.
Yeah,
I'm here.
it's up to you guys. I'll go for a little bit longer if you guys want. But if people are chilling, we could shut it down and everybody could get on with the rest of their night. I know for East Coast people and people overseas, UK and stuff, it's great. It's probably in the middle of the night, so I don't expect people to be here for that. Yeah, but it's up to you guys. But what like I was saying, just to wrap it up, yeah, it's crazy expensive. It's ridiculous. It's all because, in my opinion, most of these residential properties are owned by investment banks now. Oh, Kara's just getting here. What's up, Kara? Good to see you.
Well,
So,
we were just talking about that today, JJ, about the cost of like a home or an apartment or, these people coming in and buying everything up.
yeah, and it's in my opinion, it's all related to globalism because what they're doing is they're getting either foreign money, wealthy people from other countries that are buying up all the real estate, or the investment banks are buying up residential property, and it's pricing out regular people, especially for home ownership. And like they want you to quote unquote own nothing and be happy and have to lease everything. It's very they've talked about this, guys. Read the Great Reset book. They propose this. What's up? Good to see you too, Kara.
Did you see
And
the thing about the new appliances coming out in 2027? Like the
well,
refrigerators that you had to buy a subscription to get ice?
yeah, I saw that. It's look, we have when think I say this a lot. I believe that corruption trickles down. And when these corporations are all in bed and owned by the investment banks, so they're following the agenda. And because there's so much shit going on, they feel like they can get away with whatever. Because think about it, power and money, they don't care about what people want. They care about what people will accept and how much they can get away with. And if they know society is flooded with all this shit, that they can try to get away with as much as possible. And if they have the backing of all these globalist organizations and the bankers, they're going to try to push those agendas. They don't look. We just talked about this today. These organizations care about money, and they care about owning everything. And the politicians are largely corrupt, and they're run by these bankers. It's not, governments are just means by which they control the resources. So I think we're going to be seeing that. Yeah, right. Well, there's a documentary on Hulu about, I forget what it's called. I watched a little of it last week, or like a week and a half ago.
What's it about?
It's about the water supply around the world, and how I believe that geoengineering has something to do with that. They're basically allowing corporations and other countries to buy up land, and they have water rights, so they can tap in to a local water supply and be able to exploit that. So
It's called,
citizens,
I'm sorry, is it The Grab?
maybe it
Okay.
might
Or
be.
The Power of Water?
I don't think it's the power of water. It might be the grab.
I think it, okay.
And they're buying up land, but what they're doing is they'll buy up, let's say, a rural, huge plot of
Yes.
land, and they'll use it for either data centers or a factory farm or something like that. But because of the little loopholes, they have unobstructed access to the water. So they can drill down, tap into the water table, and to the point where the citizens in the surrounding area that use that same water supply don't have enough water for their farms. And there's loopholes. And the bankers are all in on it. They're bringing in these foreign companies. It's a scam. Everything's a fucking scam now. I mean, I can say that everything's a scam. What are we supposed to do about it? I don't have the answer. But I think if more and more and more people wake up, is the only way, because it doesn't matter if only a small percentage of the population is aware of what's really going on. There's no way you're going to stop it. Yeah, and the water for the data centers, that's going to be, look, it should be, in my opinion, pretty obvious to everybody now that everything we're told is a lie by the government, by the mainstream media. Now, normies don't want to accept that, and I understand. But that's the reality, and we have to just spread ideas and pray that more people wake up. That's all I can say, because things unfortunately have to get critically bad before most people will take action, and we're getting close.
Well, I think this is a good segue when we do our American Dream one, because this is a lot of that with, not being able to buy a house and, not being able to own anything, and what are you really working for? And one of my favorite employees today, he's going back for his last semester, and he's so excited because he's going to be a physician assistant. And we've had a lot of good talks. And, I was talking to him about the tax bracket. And when he looked into it, you should have seen his face when he realized once he hits a certain tax bracket, how much money they're going to take from him in taxes and all of that. So these are young people that, are working hard, and they're, really excited. And then they it's almost like they get hit in the face because they're going to come out, and most of all these things you really can't obtain.
Right. Well, this is what's been in play actually for a while. And this is, in my opinion, why it's all by design, in my opinion. because it's been stated. Lovely me, it's good to see you. It's going. Heading back home tomorrow. So wish me luck. And we're gonna do 2 streams this weekend. And what did we decide on, Philly? What did we lock in on for this weekend? Definitely, which is the one that we're definitely doing? And then I know we talked about a couple of other potential ones.
I think you said the It Hits the Fan 2. Hold on. And then The American Dream. I'm just looking at my notes. I have to take notes, guys, when I'm talking to JJ. But we can change it. It's really up to them.
I'm not driving. I'm flying. I'm flying back. It's like 2,000 miles, so I'm going to fly back tomorrow. I won't get home till late at night because I have to drive after I get there pretty far. So I won't get home till real late tomorrow night. So was it, I know we talked about The American Dream as a potential one. We talked about Shit Hit the Fan Preparedness Part 2, more long-term preparedness. We talked about the data center thing to be coming up at some point in the near future. We already touched on the flock cameras, surveillance cameras, and other associated surveillance cameras. I talked about the Toka one. If you guys don't know what that is, I did a video about the flock and Toka systems. Yeah, I know that. I saw that, Kara.
Kara saw.
I believe it got approved.
Yep.
I believe it did get approved.
We were just talking about that today in my office, Kara. I'm not happy about that at all.
Yeah, I've driven cross country, coast to coast by myself a few times.
And just go back to Kara real quick, because I get big on this, but I'll try to stay focused. The reason why I'm not happy, first of all, I'm not happy about these shots anyway, but the reason why I'm really not happy about the flu shot, guys, is a lot of your insurance companies, in order for providers, in order for practices to get kickbacks, they have quality gaps. And one of the biggest quality gaps during the fall and winter season is the flu shot. So we literally get a list of patients who have quote unquote an open gap, meaning they need their flu shot. So the more you get them to get it and close that gap, the bigger incentive you get. So it's a huge push. And this is all across insurances because I work with all of them. It's all across every provider. So that's why if you ever notice, if you go to your doctor and they're like, oh, are you ready for your flu shot? And you refuse it. A lot of doctors, if they don't know you, like they know me, like, if they don't know you, like they know once I say no, it's a no, but that's why they push it because they get huge. Yes, Kara, they get hundreds of thousands of dollars to close this gap. And so they have a target, and if you hit the target, if you go above that target, you get an extra incentive. Yes. Sorry, just have to say that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of things that if you trace them all back, they all go to these globalist organizations. The World Health Organization, guys, look into what it really is. That's all I'm going to say about that. Just look into what it really is, because it is not what most people think it is. And some of the things that I've learned over the years that people may not know about, it would sound like there's no way that can't possibly be true. That can't be real. But it is. There are things happening in the world that have been happening for a long time that most people just because we're not taught this growing up. We're given a narrative. This is the United Nations does this and NATO does that and the World Health Organization does this. But most people don't question it and learn about who really controls what happens on a global level with geopolitics and policies and who really creates these policies. And then those policies are presented to the public in a way that most people just say, oh, I guess that's what's going on. And with what happened starting in spring of 2020, the power consolidation and the wealth transfer was astronomical. And I think that these factions of these very powerful, very, very, very wealthy institutions and segments of the world, like the power elites, they were emboldened by what happened. And I knew that was going to happen and that you should never give away your power.
No, and I could talk anything like this. I could, JJ, I could talk about this forever.
Yeah,
But you're
I
right.
don't know about this stuff on that level, so you're better to talk about it. Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to get into the shit that I went through relating to this stuff. Yeah, you'll see me crash out if I get into that stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of crazy shit going on in the world, guys. And if I could leave you all with this nugget that I can promise you, if you research it, you'll come back to me. If you don't already know it, you'll come back to me and go, holy shit. All of these things that we're talking about can be traced and they all link up together if you go far enough up the ladder. I'm telling you, you have to dig, but you can find the information. And one of the things, for anybody who didn't hear me speak about this in any of my last few videos, I'm working for the near future on a stream it's going to be a big one. And it's going to be about the actual global power structure. It's a theory, but it's a foundational theory, but it has things to back it up. And I'm even going to go and touch on the ancient origins of a global power structure. So, and I'm going to have like a visual, like graph to represent it. I'm hoping is going to help me with that. But I did send them the information, the basic outline, and that is going to be one that connects many, many dots. But you also have to do your own research. Dig into other things, other little threads, because there's a lot of things that are connected that most people wouldn't even think are connected. Yeah, I try not to crash out on streams, but there are a couple of things. At one point in time, I'm sure you guys will see me crash out. One of the things that makes me crash out is when this is one of the big ones. If somebody in the chat is griping that people are talking about something that they don't like, the idea of, that is one of the things that you try to censor me on a stream and you'll see me change and I won't be very nice. Like I go nuts with that. Somebody on Devil's Advocates in their chat one time tried to shut down a line of discussion and I just went off on them in the chat because Oh, you gotta go. Your potty's gonna get his potty off the roof. Spotty potty. See, I'm glad that the chat can amuse themselves. The stadies are pretty good about that. Oh, Kara, that was funny, man. That whole bear discussion. I'm pretty sure it was like one or two bears. Because think about it. The bear that I thought I saw looked to be not a large bear. And typically, if you have a younger bear, it's going to be with its mother. So it could have been two bears walking behind that car, but I definitely saw a bear walking. Spotty potty. Not to undermine JJ, let's make a topic for an upcoming lives. Yeah, well, you guys are, I'm open to that. I tell people all the time, man, get on the Discord, because if like a bunch of people are like, hey, let's talk about this, we'll do an episode about that. I see bears all the time in Colorado. All right, check this out. Philly, I didn't tell you this. I just got an email today from where I live, the complex that I live, about bears going in the trash cans. Everybody make sure you don't leave your trash outside of the dumpster. Just got an email today about the bears. And typically, anybody who lives near or in mountain areas, when there's a drought, the bears come down because there's not as much food for them. So they start getting desperate for food. So they're all over people's trash bins, and they're hanging around to try to get in the garbage cans. Spotty. So literally, the bears followed me home.
Yeah.
Watch,
He
I'm gonna
thought
get
they
home.
did. I don't think the bear was in the backyard, but he swears the bear was in the backyard. I'm saying it's a raccoon.
I'm gonna get home really late tomorrow night, and I'm gonna go walking past the dumpsters, and if there's bears there, I'm taking a picture of them.
You're just gonna stand there and take a picture while bears are.
As long as I'm not too close to them.
Here's the thing before I forget. So, if JJ gets to 5,000 subs, we're going to do a giveaway. We're going to do a sweatshirt giveaway, and I'm going to make it even sweeter. We're going to do the sweatshirt giveaway, which we have some ideas on what the sweatshirt's going to look like. And I'm going to make JJ tell you guys that epic story that he has not told you yet. But we have to get to 5,000 subs.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Look, I mean, we want to get the channel to grow. And people have asked me, like, oh, I can't send you a super chat or whatever. I'm not even monetized yet. And so I'm, obviously, it's costing me money to keep this stream going, which that's fine. But I want to get to a point where at least I'm able to offset some of the cost of some of the programs I have to use to create presentations and the StreamYard and all that stuff. And if we can build up the followers, then I can get monetized. It'll offset some of the costs that I'm paying out of pocket. And then we can build up a community of people, that like to talk about a variety of different things, maybe come at them from a different angle. Curious Minds 2025. Good to see you. Gonna do a rewind for tonight. The Bears were hilarious that night. I agree. I thought that's what it was. And you have to understand, I've seen countless bears in real life. Like, I've seen them many, many times walk right in front of my car or be in the distance. I've seen so many bears of all the years living in Colorado. I live in the mountains. There's bears in the summer. You're going to see bears at night for sure. But it was funny though, the people in the chat were like, no, that's a person. I'm like, it could have been a person, but I'm just saying what it looked like to me, based on seeing, a lot of bears. Yeah, it was $45 per bear, Ipati, if it was two. Thank you, Splendid Melancholy. And everybody, I think, that's been in any of the chats knows that it's very rare that I'll do a live where it's just about one topic. So I like to open things up and talk about different stuff, right? I've told people a million times, I like talking about the Idaho 4, like my take on it, the big picture stuff. But I like talking about a lot of stuff. So I like when people, are they still seriously, Kara, talking about that? I don't know, man. Look, I can't say for sure, obviously, but to me, it seemed like it was pretty obviously a bear. Like probably two bears. Yeah, that was whoever didn't see that stream with Birdie. We got into this whole big, if you didn't see it, debate on what we were seeing in this surveillance footage from 4:13 a.m. in Moscow because of like somebody's light went off, like motion sensor got triggered. And at first I couldn't tell, but then once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, but I could be wrong. I can't say I'm 100% sure, but I'm pretty damn sure. Yeah, it was like 45 minutes talking about what is that? Is that a person? Is that a bear? Is that a raccoon? I'm confident it was at least one bear. Yeah, it is pretty funny when you think about it that we were like, people were debating in the chat, and I guess still are debating. I know other people believed it was a bear too. I'm pretty sure, I'm very confident that it was a bear, but I'm not 100%. Yeah, so to say, and I apologize for anybody in the chat, like if I missed your comments, but I want to thank everybody though, for hanging out, because I like taking the temperature of the chat and seeing what people want to talk about. But I will get better at doing the lives going forward. I refrain from doing certain things because I don't want to tank the live or crash the StreamYard or anything. But I'll be incorporating more visuals and stuff in the future because I'm still working on getting better at it. Yeah, there's like, if you live in the mountains, bears are just an everyday part of your life. Foxes, bears, moose, elk, deer. Yeah, Callan, I was pretty confident pretty quick it was a bear. Once Birdie like zoomed in a little bit and like filtered it, you could see bears are very distinctive the way they walk. And in my opinion, I'd like to get anybody who didn't see it, go watch Birdie's video when I was on when was it? Was it last Wednesday? Or the Wednesday? I can't remember now. When was it? Was it 2 weeks ago? Anyway, go see, you'll find it. He's talking about the 451 Paradise body cam footage. Thank you, Curious Minds. I'm trying. No, I'm heading back tomorrow. So I'm having a long ass day tomorrow. But yeah, if it was last Wednesday, you'll find it. It says 451 Paradise. And you'll see the debate. And just look at the comments after the live about the debate on what it was. Yeah, I mean, I love Birdie too. You know, we get into some interesting discussions. Yeah, thank you. I won't. Please wish me safe travels. I hate traveling nowadays. It used to be cool. It sucks now. And I have to drive 130, 100, yeah, about 130 miles to get home after I get there at night. So I'm not getting home till late. So yeah, I'll be needing a coffee when I get there. Sometimes I get lucky when I fly back and like the Starbucks or one of the coffee places is in the airport still open. If I don't get there too late and I can grab one for the drive home. Yeah, so thank you for that, Curious Minds. Yeah, and I again shout out to Birdie Bombshells, shout out to the Custody Queens off the clock with Ron and also Outkast and to the Devil's Advocates crew for having supported me. I appreciate them. And we'll announce what the next two lives will be about. Philly, right? We'll try to do that in like the next try to do it by tomorrow.
And if you guys have a certain topic, like I said, if you're not already on our Discord, join our Discord. Just go into the group chat. It's JJ, give me a quick minute just so I can tell them where to go. Making friends, like the general chat, and just let us know like what you want to talk about, what you're interested in, or just what's on your mind. Because that really helps let us know what you want to know, what you want JJ to dig deeper into.
And also I'll tell you some bigger things that we'll be doing in the future. We're definitely going to talk about the data centers. We're definitely going to talk about the preparedness for like a shit hit the fan type of scenario. Again, more of a longer term thing. It's always good to be at least minimally prepared. And the first video did well for that. So we're going to do another one. We're going to do the one about the American dream, but then some of the bigger ones I'll be doing about geoengineering. I'll be doing the global power structure one is going to be as big picture as I could possibly get. So that will be more, I guess, one that lays the foundation, and it would probably explain some of why I think about things the way that I do. And then more specifically, I'm sure I have already done it, but I'll do more discussions about the intelligence agencies, some of the things that they have done, some of the things that some of the methods they use. We'll do for sure. I'm sure in the future I'll do an episode more about psyops, limited hangouts, controlled opposition, because they're relevant to a lot of the big picture stuff and the high profile events that are happening. You know, initially I had thought about doing a little series about the Charlie Kirk whole case with the Tyler Robinson and all that stuff. But I will tell you this, I've avoided it because there's very large creators. Yeah, Curious Minds, that's that ties in with like the whole Great Reset thing. And we can talk about that too. So please join the Discord. Send a reminder in the Discord about that. And Philly, if you make a note of that, we'll talk about that. Because I just did an episode recently about Animal Farm, the book, the George Orwell book. And I'm rereading right now. I'll probably read some more tonight, 1984, which both of them are directly tied to this topic. And it's a good one. It's a really good and important one. And I have some thoughts about that I want to expand on as well, about how that relates to the Great Reset and things like that. I mean, I won't get into it tonight, but I'll tell you, I don't think the world is flat. I've had discussions about this with people, and I don't claim to be an expert on it, but I can explain why it talks about it in the old Bibles. It's because they didn't have the technology and the science to see it any other way at that time. Now, it's just my opinion. I'd be happy to debate it with someone who knows more about it than I do. But we can talk about it one night. I mean, I'm open to, again, join the Discord, and it's a process. You know, as I go forward, and if I'm able to do more videos, I'll be able to plan more topics and deep dives in advance. But for sure, I'm going to be talking about the global power structure, geoengineering, with upcoming soon, the American Dream, shit hit the fan, be prepared, data centers. I'm definitely going to talk more about psychology stuff, which I've touched on in some of my videos, but I haven't done any deep dives. I would imagine, based on my handler, we'll probably even get into some controversial things about Sigmund Freud and some other related topics. So, which, you know, I'm not an expert, but I am pretty familiar with Sigmund Freud and a chunk of his theories because I had to study it in college.
I say he's a fraud, but that's all I'm going to say.
It's a great, I tell you what, man, 1984 is so relevant right now. It is so relevant right now. And so is Animal Farm. That's why I did a thing on Animal Farm, and why I'm going to do, I'm sure, an episode if people want to discuss 1984. Well, it's funny because I bought the Book of Enoch, but I know the most basic aspects about it, but I'm like 10 books behind on research. Because as you guys know, reading a book is more, you have to dedicate the time to it. You can't like listen to an audio. You can listen to an audio book while you're driving, but you can do it spread out over time. But reading a book is the best way. And I've got so many books that I'm behind on reading. But yeah, this book, I've heard a lot about it. The Assault on Truth. And I know things about Freud, like more specific to his theories and whatnot. And so I'll be able to interpret that book. Like book recommendations for people that have time. Gulf Coast Bum, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, well, you know what? I've talked about this. That the last 6 years of I used to be a really social person, and I'm not as social as I used to be. But you can't let this horseshit that's been happening in the world overwhelm you. You have to, because I was in that place several years ago. You have to remember, they want us miserable. They want us fighting. They want us divided. They want us confused. They want us distracted. So what's a good way to fight back? Live a good life. Be happy. Do things for yourself. Don't buy into all the bullshit. Because as I said before, there's, in my opinion, is two ways. I'm sure there are others, but two good ways to counter psyops is with creating your own psyops and ignoring psyops. But don't lose hope, because you can take on all this negativity, and then what happens is you don't realize it, but you're internalizing all of it. And you have to, I was never like, oh, the power of positive thinking kind of guy. But the more I've learned, the more I believe in that. What you feed is what will come out in you. If you feed yourself a lot of negativity and you feed negative thoughts, you'll feel negative. If you acknowledge the bad, but also acknowledge the good and be, cats are going crazy in here. Acknowledge things and try to see the good and see the positive, and remember that a lot of what we've been told is very strategic and a lot of it's horseshit. Don't let them, make you unhappy. Do things, do good things yourself, and think positively about things, and it does work. You do start to shift. Okay, you guys can't hear it, but the cats are sprinting around my sister's basement. It's getting to that time where they go crazy. Well, look, everybody, I'm going to wrap it up, grab some food, do some reading. Thank you so much to everybody. Thank you to my handler. Yeah, they're all over me, these cats. They're stalking me now. Thank you to my handler. Thanks, Splendid Melancholy. Gulf Coast Bum, thank you for being here. Curious Minds. Epati, thanks for stopping in again, man. Appreciate you. It's just Kara. Thank you for being here. Lenny Briscoe, thank you. I appreciate all of you guys. Thanks to everybody. Chiquita, thank you for being here. And let's see. Lenny Briscoe, thank you for being here. And let's see who else. Lovely Me was here. Thank you, Lovely Me. Callan, thank you for being here. And I know I'm forgetting people that aren't in the chat now, but I appreciate everybody for supporting me. Let's see. I missed some comments earlier. But anyway, I really want to thank everybody that came and joined the live stream and participated in the chat. So hope let's see, Vanilla. I want to thank Vanilla. I want to thank, oh God, how many? There was a lot of people here earlier. Avi, good to see you. We're wrapping it up, but thanks for popping in. Please watch the replay. I know BLZ was here. Thank you, BLZ. Shelly, thanks, Shelly. I'm scrolling back through the chat because I want to make sure. I'll probably forget some people. Kiss Me Where I Pee stopped in. Thank you. And I know there are others that were here, and I'm not in the chat. Sean Marie, thank you. And Microblue was here. I appreciate it. Green Eclectic Mama was here, because I know, some people might be really late where they are. They can't stay the whole time. All right. Well, thanks to everybody and everybody I didn't mention. So pay attention. We'll announce the topics for Saturday and Sunday. Join the Discord. Please like and subscribe to the video. And there'll be more good stuff coming up.
Oh, wait a minute. Okie dokie, Lisa, Crime and Chaos. Hi, guys. We're just about to sign off, but just wanted to make sure you saw that they came in, JJ.
Oh, great. Crime and Chaos. Good to see you. Okie dokie, Lisa. Good to see you too. Thanks for popping in. But yeah, it's getting late here, and I got a long day tomorrow. So thanks to everybody, and hopefully you guys will be around for the 2 lives this weekend, and then we'll announce what they're going to be about in the next day or two. Hopefully by tomorrow, and then next week I'll probably announce some of the things that I might be doing, 1 or 2 pre-recordeds, and then the following following the lives that we're going to do. So, all right, guys, thanks to everybody. Sorry, okie dokie, that you just got here and we're signing off on you and Crime and Chaos. But we'll catch you guys soon. See you guys on the next one. Have a great night. We appreciate you.